Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Los Angeles Marketer User Group webinar, Driving Personalization and Performance with Marketo and AI-powered GTM. I'm Prash Shenoy, LA organizer and your host for today. And I'm so glad that you could join us. As many of you know, marketing leaders today face what we call the CMO squeeze. Outbound is becoming less effective, paid media costs keep rising, revenue targets are climbing by 20 to 30%, yet budgets still flat. On top of that, AI is transforming SEO and changing the buyer journey. And here is the big one. Over 60 to 70% of the B2B buyers now expect personalization in their buying process. That's our reality. And today we are going to talk about how to meet that expectation without adding complexity to your operations. And over the next hour, you will learn how to use Marketo data to personalize websites and campaigns in real time using tools like Webflow. Apply ABM strategies, behavioral targeting, and contextual personalization. Integrate AI in a way that keeps the human touch and focus on metrics that matters so you can measure and improve your impact. Today, we are so honored to have two incredible experts for today's webinar. First, Guy Yalif. Guy is a seasoned B2B marketing executive with over 20 years of experience helping marketeers use AI to drive revenue and on websites and across digital channels. As Webflow's chief evangelist, he champions the power of AI-driven optimization to help marketing teams convert more visitors while building their digital brand. Guy has held various marketing leadership roles at Twitter, Brightroll, TradeWeave, Yahoo, and also he's a co-founder of Intellimize. Guy brings a deep expertise in AI-powered marketing, personalization, and website optimization, and a fresh perspective on how CMOs and marketing leaders can drive measurable business impact. And joining him is Hannah Halikanovic. Hannah is a digital and marketing operations manager at NCR Atleos, where she leads the marketing ops digital response team. With over 10 years at NCR across multiple roles, she brings a hands on, a real world perspective on how to implement personalization and AI tools effectively within marketing operations, making her insights especially valuable for today's discussion. So, whether you're here to sharpen your personalization strategy, explore AI's role in your GTM approach, or get fresh ideas for integrating Marketo into a multi-channel experience, you are in the right place. So let's dive in. Guy, over to you.
Thanks, Prash. Just unmuted. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. We've got some things to go through. The thing is not necessarily to go through the things, it's to share some ideas. It's to share how you can practically activate Marketo data to create more engaging experiences and drive more revenue. So please ask questions in the chat anytime as things come up as we go through the things Prash was talking about. AI-powered execution, how do you drive efficiency? What metrics do you focus on? And then we're going to talk with Hannah about how she is activating Marketo in real life at NCR Atleos, and then we'll take Q&A. We'll spend most of the time on the first one. 30 seconds of background on Webflow. Why are we here? Why are we talking about this? Webflow is an enterprise platform that makes it easy for designers, marketers, and developers to collaborate, to work together, to build visually stunning sites that build your brand, that engage prospects, that also drive revenue, often using Marketo data to go personalize, run ABM, and more, coding optional. We're used by brands like Sephora, Procter & Gamble, NCR Atleos, Jasper, BBDO, ComScore, Duracell, the New York Times, and more. And Webflow acquired the company I was co-founder and CEO of, Intellimize, a year ago. So to Prash's point, we see CMOs facing a difficult time with, just as he said, revenue going up, budgets being flat, paid media costs going up, AI impacting the entire buyer journey, and for most of us, outbound being less effective. And so, what do we do in that environment? Our humble suggestion is to go engage prospects throughout the journey as you have been doing with Marketo. And to do that, today we'll talk about the example of doing that on websites in particular. Turns out, as Prash was talking about, people expect this. They are used to it. 66% of B2B buyers expect personalization, according to a recent Adobe study. And many companies are saying they're doing it. Instapage said, hey, 86% of B2B companies are now using some form of personalization in their marketing. And another Adobe study said 68% of companies say their personalization efforts, they exceeded their targets. So people expect it, people are doing it, and it exceeds targets. How do you do it? How do you go do personalization that performs? Well, at its core, it's tapping into Marketo's great data and activating it.
Um,
And when you take a step back, as we know, most B2B marketing uses three different kinds of data. One is contextual. You know, where are they? What time of day of week is it? Because their mindset is probably different midday in the workday than if you're catching them on the weekend. What were they doing, before? Firmographic data, which Marketo will have in spades, and behavioral data. Did they fill out a form before? What have they told you about themselves? Marketo can help in each of these areas. And I invite you to think about activating that data at four different scopes. So the first is using data to create better, more engaging experiences that drive revenue for everybody. And we are often used to doing this with A/B testing. We happen to offer a tool called Webflow Optimize that is what used to be in Telemize that makes it really easy to do this on websites. And should you do it and you've got Marketo data, you can then, even though you ran an A/B test across everybody, slice the results by any of the Marketo data that you have, any of the segments you built, any of the smart lists you built, you can go look at them. So that's everybody. You can then go tune experiences by segment. You may say, hey, I know what industry you're in thanks to you having filled out a form. And I want to go show you an industry specific case study. You can then go further and personalize by individual account. You can go execute ABM plays. You've sent the email, you know what account they're from. They click on that link, they come to your site, and you want their experience to continue from that email and be account specific. And the last is to say, hey, you know what? I want to personalize down to the individual. I want, in this case, you need to use AI to go choose which set of experiences that you've created already, human reviewed, human created, which is the right combination to show each person. And like we do as we're evaluating our email copy or our ads, have AI optimized for the goal we, the marketer, choose, whether that be click-throughs or filling out a form, and show the good stuff more, the bad stuff less often. So I invite you to use that as a mental model. Personalize for everybody, a segment, an account, or an individual. How do you do that? Well, we invite you to leverage Marketo segments on your website. Use the rich customer data like industry, job role, funnel stage to tailor what each visitor sees on your website. For example, let's say somebody is in Marketo's financial services segment. Your homepage, which for most of us looks the same for everybody, wouldn't it be great if your homepage showed a finance related case study or testimonial dynamically on the fly? Marketo Feeding Webflow Optimize can do that directly, enabling you to target that audience. Um, how does that look? How does that work? Happily, without code. There is some setup to do where you're authoring. And once you do that, you've got this audience builder here. The QR code is simply a QR code to that link, which is help docs. But we can then go say, okay, I want these lists or these smart lists. I want these fields from them. And all of those are then available for us to go personalize with. We can say, I want to personalize for this segment. If they're in this segment, data from Marketo, show them this experience. Awesome, right? If they're in finance, show them the finance. Or you can go further and say, I want to cut the results of any of my work by any one of these pieces of contextual data. Or you can make it available to the machine learning, which will happen automatically, to discover pockets of performance. When you're using our AI Optimize, it can go see, oh, you know what? Marketo thought this person was high intent. High intent people react better to this language. Let's go show them this experience. So this rich segmentation, it comes alive on your website. It extends the work you're doing in your emails and your other outreach and helps coordinate this multi-channel experience. You can take this further when you make it available to AI Optimize and create experiences using everything you know about a visitor without code. Let's make up an example. Let's say you wanted to try 5 different headlines, 5 different images, and 5 different calls to action in your hero on your homepage or your landing page. You could use machine learning, our predictive ML, to go try all 5 times 5 times 5, 125 different possible combinations, and it'll optimize those against all the segments you've shared from Marketo and any other contextual data it can see. There are going to be more segments than there are people on Earth. You are literally optimizing down to the individual so that one landing page in this example could feel like 125. And then Prosh would receive one version, Hannah would receive another, I'd receive a third from those 15 pieces of creative we chose to create. And you can do this for non-logged in users. Have a returning visitor who's already seen your homepage, skip the intro. Have a user who's spending time on your pricing page, show them a stronger call to action. Have somebody who showed up a bunch, be pushier in your calls to action, and so on. So these are ways to activate the data. Now, how do you then say, okay, are we getting the results we want? Happily, you can optimize on Marketo form fills as goals. You can pick a bunch of forms and say, you know what, the submission from those forms, I've just blocked out the account specific info here, but this is literally from the UI where I would say, you know what, these 5 forms here, anytime someone does that form fill, that's a conversion. I want to see that in my reporting. I want to see it in my testing. I want the AI, if we're using AI Optimize, to optimize for the things those saw, the things those people saw that converted, so that we show those things more often because clearly they're working. Make sense? Um, Guy, are you showing slide? Prosh, can you see the slides?
Yes,
Awesome,
I
great.
can. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry for not having seen that 7 minutes ago. Um, So here's how then you can use this data and the different versions of websites that you've come up with to go personalize experiences. And you can then tie that to all of your other efforts. You can tie it to your email campaign where, you are sending out the emails we were talking about before out to someone. When they come and click on that link and go to your website, if they've got a munchkin there already, if they've got that cookie, you can use that to personalize to them as an individual, knowing who they are. If they don't yet have a munchkin, but you put in URL parameters, maybe it's UTM, maybe it's something else, you can use that to personalize on first page view by account, by segment, by individual, tailoring that experience. You can then do that, on desktop and on mobile differently if you want. And this consistency of message, this continuation of the email campaign onto the website, that reduces bounce rates. That increases conversion rates because the visitor feels the content is speaking directly to their needs. It's taking all that heavy work you've done in tailoring the emails and just extending it, allowing it to continue. You get more out of it. If you've got questions, please share them. Happily, this is an official Adobe Exchange app, and there'll be links to that later on. But if you want to use Webflow Optimize, the partnership is very intentional, very explicit, and intended to be turnkey once you've done the initial authorization. So you can find this in the Adobe Exchange marketplace. A couple of other ideas, sort of visualizing some of the stuff we're talking about. Let's paint a hypothetical. I'm making this up. You're going to see screenshots from multiple sites. I picked these at random. They may or may not be customers. Like, it's not because of that. This was a convenient screenshot. Let's say we were Okta and we were running a campaign and trying to attract their attention. We might, I'm going to look over here, say, hey, I want to welcome this visitor by company name. If I did that by inferring company name, that might seem creepy. But if they clicked on an email that I sent them through Marketo, that'll feel very personalized. They know, I know as the marketer that they're with Okta in this case, or sorry, Okta's target quad. You could even go further if they've clicked on an email, so you really have permission to know who they are. You could say, instead of try Okta, go speak with Jane, your account executive. You could then iterate on your calls to action and different pieces of content by personalizing by segment. Maybe the value prop to finance for Okta is different than the value prop to a quick serve restaurant or B2B SaaS or others. You can go experiment with that on the same page at the same time. You could go tailor content based on their previous behavior on the site, right? If they were looking at, let's say you don't know their industry, or you don't know the company, but they went and looked at an enterprise case study. You could infer they're a large company. You could show them large company relevant data. This is, if I look on the screen, I'm going to guess that's like a Gartner grid or Forrester Wave. An SMB might not care about that. Enterprise very likely would. You can then go show industry specific case study and more. And I bring these up as examples so that you can see, like, personalizing for everyone, for a segment, for an account, and for an individual, all on the same page at the same time. You don't have to do these things, but you can. You've got the degrees of freedom to activate your Marketo data this way. Let me share a couple of others. You could say, you know what? Actually, I want to create some serendipity. I, in this made up example, am Amplitude, and I've got this logo farm of customers. Wouldn't it be great if visitors showed up and saw their competitors there? That might get their competitive juices flowing. That might make it easier for them to go to their boss and say, we should try this. Well, what if we were JetBlue? Serendipitously, Southwest, Alaska, and United showed up. If it were all other airlines, that might feel creepy. When it's a fraction, that's serendipity. That makes me feel like, ooh, Amplitude might be the right product for me. Another one we've talked about a bunch in this made up example from Mixpanel is industry specific case studies. You've done the work. You've done the heavy lift to go create these case studies. Surfacing them on your homepage, surfacing them on landing pages. You can make your homepage feel as personalized as a landing page and make it feel very relevant to someone who's used to just seeing the same pitch from all the other companies. Now, let's say Marketo identifies somebody as high probability, they've scored high, they're an enterprise, or they've scored high and they're an SMB. Well, if they're an SMB, I may want to send them more to self-serve. I may want to change, in this hypothetical 8x8 example, hide some things. Whereas if they are enterprise, I may want to show contact sales and have the phone number, right? I'm going to flip back and forth between these two. You see, I changed the value prop on, excuse me, the call to action so that I funnel self-serve SMBs to self-serve and I funnel enterprises to sales. Sales is happy. They're getting higher quality leads. They're having to disqualify fewer of them. This is another technique that can have a big positive impact as you're trying a bunch of different ideas. And so the broader principle to share is this Marketo data, you can activate it, extending your email campaigns, personalizing websites. Webflow Optimize is one of the tools you can do that. We happen to think it's an easy way to visually go do that right on Canvas without a bunch of code. Now, let's say you wanted to embed a Marketo form directly on your website. How might you do that? You would come, and if you want to do a native form, copy and paste the code right out of Marketo and place it in a code block in Webflow. You can then style it and change it. And you've got native Marketo functionality appearing on your website where you want it, sized how you want it. And you can then benefit from a bunch of things, right? You get Marketo's native progressive profiling. You get, you can personalize the labels. You can pre-populate fields. Although, as you know, Marketo, like you can't both pre-populate and progressive profiles. So pick one. For webflow.com, we use a bit of JavaScript to pre-populate. We use another bit of JavaScript to do more interactivity. Like we want a Calendly pop-up if somebody says talk to sales. And that Calendly that pops up should be dynamic based on your choices and which seller's available. So we use a little bit of JavaScript to do that. Um, we also do some input validation and a little bit of custom CSS. But together, these things make it really easy for me to take the forms I've already created, reduce friction, share it directly on my website. It's the easiest thing. It's the most natural thing that we're all familiar with. Full stop. So you can use native Marketo forms on websites via code block. There's a third thing to have in mind, which is another option for the forms. You could choose to use a native Webflow form that is natively feeding Marketo. What might that look like? In Webflow, you would go to on the left of the designer and pick these form elements and literally just drag them onto your page. And so let's pretend I've done that. I've gone and created this contact us form. So every time somebody fills out a form on my site, I will then have mapped here every form field to a Marketo field. And that way, every time they fill out this form, the data is flowing directly to Marketo natively. Huge benefit is that you get to use your existing design system on your website. And by those two made up words, I mean like if your design team has gone and said, here are our fonts, here are our colors, here's our spacing, here are reusable elements that we have. You can then do that and natively connect it to Marketo so that you can get the styling that your team is already creating and have the fields mapped. And then you can have some additional controls. This is showing you UI from inside Webflow, where you can say, oh, you know what? I want to use CAPTCHA, or I want to use spam protection. Cloudflare's got a really good one. Or, you know, I don't want people to be able to upload files. You have some controls there. These are just QR codes to the help docs that describe these things. But the notion is you have the choice, right? You can go use a native Marketo form in a code block, or you can use a native Webflow form using your existing styles and natively send that data to Marketo. Both should work smoothly for you. Final option, if you're thinking about how to activate all of this data, you can use your favorite middleware. I'm pointing to Zapier here. Literally, you could go create a Zap that is triggered by a new form submission. And for those that aren't familiar with Zapier, it's a great way to glue together a lot of systems. And now that they've integrated LLMs, it's a good agentic platform. But here we would say, look, they've got native integrations to 8,000 tools, two of which are Marketo and Webflow. So I could say, you know, somebody submits a new form, and I'm going to pick the account, and here in the configuration, I pick which form. Then I want to create or update a lead in Marketo. And I would pick which account. I've blocked out the account specific details in this screenshot and go create the lead. And that way I can use this third party if that's more comfortable for you. If that's easier, you can't get access to the site code in some way. This is another option. And so my hope is that these four things, personalizing, which we went to in depth, and then getting form fills into Marketo, perhaps with progressive profiling, perhaps with being on style, you've got three options: the native Marketo form via code block, styled Webflow native forms natively integrated, or using third-party glue like Zapier. If you've got questions, please holler. If this is the wrong altitude, please holler as well. My hope is this is actionable. Okay, let's keep going. Let's talk a little bit about workflow efficiency in the age of AI. As you are trying to create these different experiences, you can, you know, as we're talking about sort of streamline lead capture and routing using Marketo and Webflow, you can make sure you've got clean data. Uh, You then can go say, you know what, I want to go tailor those experiences and I want to use some Gen AI to do that. I'll touch on three different options that you have. You have many, many more. One is in Webflow natively, you can literally click on any piece of text, prompt, and go change that text. You can do that on a small scale, on a headline, large scale, a whole collection of pages, and more. Marketo also has native generative AI capabilities for content creation to quickly generate email drafts, subject lines, or even web content. Marketo's AI might suggest several email headlines tailored to different segments, and we can then, use those on the website to continue the messaging. And the third option, not thinking about text, but rather thinking about images, Adobe Express has an app in Webflow so that on your Webflow site, you can say, you know what, I want to work on that image. I want to go create or edit high quality images and use Adobe Express, which uses Adobe's Firefly generative AI to create custom images from text prompts, remove backgrounds, apply on brand styles right there on the canvas in Webflow. All of which is intended to help us speed up content production for the campaigns we're running and ensure the visuals are on brand. So hopefully that helps speed up workflow, and hopefully that's happening in the context of you meeting each prospect where they are. This is an example of meeting them where they are in language. We've got built-in native AI translation in Webflow along with localization, so it will automatically create. I'm going to pretend we've got 10 languages we're working with. It'll create the 10 versions of the site, have them all tied together, and you can use AI to translate at a small scale a paragraph, large scale an entire site. You can use the one that's built into Webflow. You could use third-party ones that have apps on Webflow. But our suggestion is, as you're translating, as you're creating content, always keep the human in the loop. Some people are trying to create a billion blog posts with Gen AI only. Happily, AI engines are getting smarter about recognizing true expertise. And SEO expert Randy Fishkin's, I think he said it spot on. Raw AI content is not catching on. As you can see here in Google, raw AI content is a very small minority of what shows up there. Human created or AI augmented is the large majority. And Randy said, AI is helping creators be more efficient. That totally resonates. As you get people to your site, you want to engage them. You want to give the humans visually stunning, brand building, engaging experiences so that your content is great and your user experience is great. And we want to help you. That this is a way Webflow can help take the data and knowledge you have in Marketo and turn it into visually stunning, emotionally evocative stories using infographics, animation, interactivity, and more. And do that while, by the way, simultaneously giving agents and LLMs an interface for them that gives them clear structure, easy crawlability, maybe not every piece of your content. So hopefully these are a few tips that help on your workflow efficiency. And last, before jumping in with Hannah, I wanted to share a couple of thoughts on the metrics. I'm betting if we're all Marketo users, we are very metrics driven and wanted to, just reshare something we're all probably thinking about, that at the end of the day, even the coolest AI personalization or campaign project, ultimately it's got to go be justified to the C-suite. And, having data that our CMOs can use to go align with the CEO or CFO expectations, especially when they're defending budgets, especially when you're talking about how much to invest. Simply translating to concrete business outcomes is super helpful. And so I'm betting you already are, but to the extent you can tie to revenue or tie to pipeline or some step along that journey, the better. It helps point to, hey, we invested this much in Marketo or Webflow and we got this much pipeline out of it. That is great. And ladder those up to what your CEO cares about at the moment. If the CEO's goal is 20% revenue growth, articulate the work with Marketo directly contributing to that revenue growth. If you're pushing into a new vertical, talk about the engagement in that new vertical. Report, the form fills from there. So you frame your results mechanically as what you cause to have happen, tied to strategically what your CEO, CMO, and CFO are trying to do. I hope that's helpful. I hope this helps you activate back in the office on Monday. And if you have questions, please share them in the chat. And I'm going to now invite Hannah up onto the metaphorical stage so that we can talk through how a real marketing team used Webflow and Marketo together to drive measurable business results. Hannah, welcome again.
Thank you, guys, for having me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a customer of both of us, and for sharing practical, real-world expertise on how to make all of this work. You know, one of the things I didn't talk about was what are some of the pitfalls? Where can things go bump? And I wonder if you were talking to me in our prep about testing Marketo forms before you publish, even though you laid out the page correctly. Can you talk about why Marketo forms might not actually work as you're previewing in a QA environment a web page that you've put it on?
Yeah, yes, of course. So what we noticed is that even though the structure of the page was correct, the bottom line is Marketo validates the root domain and not the path. And therefore, if the subdomains don't match the approved domain, the script won't fire correctly. And that was actually at one point a little obstacle that we had to come across.
That sounds challenging. How do you resolve that, and how does that tie to the Munchkin tracking script?
Right. So the root domain, it just simply acts as a security checkpoint of sorts. Basically, if it's not approved, the script will block the execution of the form, and that's why it won't fire. So the Munchkin needs the correct domain to be able to set the cookies and to track the sessions. And that's why unrecognized domains wouldn't be tracked, and that's why they wouldn't be working as expected. That's what we came across.
Makes total sense. So, is this specific to Marketo, or would other third-party scripts have the same issue?
As a matter of fact, it's not really that unique, not really only Marketo related. You can find it in all sorts of analytics chatbots and other scripts with domain validation that have kind of a similar restriction system set up. That's what we also did prove during our testing phase, and we learned a lot from that experience.
Given those learnings, what would you suggest? What's your recommended approach to testing forms before going live, which is something we all should do before sending them live?
Right. So during that testing phase, it's usually the most fun phase. You usually learn all about the prep phase and the development phase, and you see what are the fruits of your labor right there and then. So above anything else, it's highly recommended to use a staging subdomain that mirrors production, something similar, and it needs to be whitelisted in Marketo. So they need to know each other. They need to be on an approved, like no relationship, not just acquaintances, but kind of best friends, best buddies kind of connection.
Is it hard to make them best buddies? Is that a difficult thing to do in Marketo?
Actually, not at all. There is a simple setting change that needs to be done in the admin section of Marketo. And next to that, it's always best practice to coordinate with the web team and the ops team, just so all of the teams working on the same project would be avoiding tracking disruptions, which may come up as a potential problem, but collaboration would like efficiently clear that out of the table.
Super duper helpful. And you know, I took it as a given you want to use a staging domain and test. Are there pros and cons you might share about using a staging subdomain to mirror production?
Yes, yes, that is one of the biggest highlights that we took out from that experience. Pros would be they replicate live behavior exactly. They're very true to their form. And the other side, cons, they do require extra DNS and setup, a lot more work to them, but it's worth for an accurate testing. So you need to weigh out based on the situation you're in and see which one works better for you.
Super duper helpful. Are you doing this? What scale are you doing this at? How many Marketo forms are you running at a time?
We we're expanding at a large number day by day. Now we're in the double-digit numbers. There are many of them. I think we're now in a scale of between 20 and 30, somewhere over there. And each campaign needed tailoring and certain customization level for those forms. So that's why we ended up having so many of them, so to speak.
Love the tailoring. How much of the form are you tailoring for each of those campaigns, or are a lot of the fields standardized?
Not a lot of them. We do mostly customized ones. All the fields, the verbiage on them, the amount of field, the positioning of them, which ones are required and necessary to populate before submitting a form versus the ones that are kind of not that obligatory. You can omit them and proceed with just submitting the form as is. And also some of the messaging. It all depends on the goals of the campaign that the form is created for. So that's why we don't really have two forms that are alike. They're all unique in their own way, just all tailored and customized and adapted for that campaign that they're created for.
I love it. Snowflake forms. Each one is unique.
Pretty much.
How big a percentage of your inbound demand is coming through these forms?
We've tried to do as precise calculations as we could, and we came up with a number that is around 2.5%, which is, as I compared it to the benchmarks, pretty good, a significant share of that. The fact for that result being like that is that all of our forms are just keeping the gated content. In most cases, they're there to just accumulate contact information of people who are registering for events and want to attend them. And most of all, lead capture and demand gen. So they're all gated for something, and they're all pretty much that very important stage before they get to where they want to get. So we're happy with that result so far, but we will definitely keep crunching the data that we are accumulating and learning from that every day.
Are you using that data to personalize once they've given you the information in exchange for something gated?
We are not at a scale as of yet, but we are storing all the data and we are learning how to do better segmentation, and we are just trying to adapt it for future personalization. Something close to an ABM strategy of sorts, but yes.
I'm excited to hear it and see it. And one of the, things we all wrestle with in getting these conversions and the campaigns that lead up to them, whether they're account specific or not, is attribution in these big multi-touch campaigns. How are you tracking form or page interactions on those?
Right. We are dwelling in a lot of those fields that you just mentioned, so I'm happy that you actually pinpointed that one. We're using UTMs mostly, so even if a campaign is about one email communication, it will be tailored specifically, for example, to different target audiences between different US states, for example, and all of them will be UTM'd in a very specific way. So once they go through the link that they are provided and they pick up on those UTMs, we will know definitely how many of them have came from that group or that group, gone through the form, and eventually landed in our database where we're going to be triaging them heavily before they go to sales. So that's pretty much like a sample view of our process at the moment.
I love it. It sounds like the UTMs are central to your tracking strategy, helping you understand where leads came from.
Exactly that. So they are revealing exactly which medium is the best one, exactly which component is the better one performing, and which one of those assets did best to drive conversion, to raise it up. And it's crucial for our lead attribution in essence and our ROI eventually. So yes.
Awesome. Hannah, those were the prepared questions I had. Anything else you want to share before we turn it back over to Prash to cover the questions we're getting from the audience?
I just wanted to share that I have learned a lot during this webinar today, and I'm happy to have attended, especially from this perspective. So thank you for having me here. And I'm looking forward to the future so we can start implementing all of these little neat tricks with Optimize so we can actually be better at our job. So thank you.
And me with you on how to make this work in practice. The making sure you don't actually think everything's broken when you're testing before you go live is so important. Along with the perspective on the multi-touch attribution and personalizing every form to be a snowflake. Thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Likewise, and thank you.
Prash, back over to you.
Awesome, awesome. Guy, that was amazing, amazing insights. So many golden nuggets. I'm sure all the Marketo users in this webinar have got a lot to think about. And like you said, by Monday, yeah, they're like, how do I go and implement some of this stuff, right? And yeah, Guy, I think we have a couple of questions I want to go over, and then maybe if anything else is there, we can always share those answers back in our follow-up emails to the users. The first question I think I have is, okay, so I think this, we are all in Marketo. So we already use smart list and segments in Marketo. How exactly does the Webflow Optimize help us activate that data on our website in real time? I know you covered some of it, but maybe if you can expand a little bit more so the users can get a little bit more insights here.
Very happy to share. There was a screenshot earlier of an audience builder where Marketo was one of the entries. If you click into that, you then will see a choice of which lists or smart lists you would like to import and use then to go personalize experiences, to go use in after the fact reporting, slicing and dicing results. And so really you get the choice. You get to choose which ones you want to bring in, and you could then say, you know, I want anyone who's on this list to have this content or these words or this image. Or you can say, you know what, I ran a test and even though I didn't target this segment specifically, can you cut the results by that segment after the fact, which is super duper helpful for gaining insights on, you know, well, we ran this broader test, but this segment spiked. Let's go do something, you know, more for them. And so happily the answer is once you've got it set up with the authentication, no code, you just activate it.
Awesome. No, that was amazing. And everyone's mind today is racing about how do I use AI, right? And I think somebody has this really insightful question is like, how does AI in Optimize decide which variation to serve? And what kind of conversion lift have you seen from that?
Yeah. On the first one, it decides what to serve based on what we, the marketers, chose. We define the conversion event or events, like the example we showed earlier, you know, the 5 Marketo form fill outs. It then will listen for those conversions and say, ooh, you know what? Hannah saw this headline, she converted. Prosh saw this other headline, he did not convert. So when I see people that look like Hannah and Prosh, I am more likely to show the headline Hannah saw and less likely to show the headline that Prosh saw. And so it really is keying off of what we choose as the goal. So you were saying, how does it activate on it? And forgive me, there was a second part to the question.
Yeah, I think it's what kind of conversion lift have
Oh, yeah. Uh, the answer truly is it depends. Industry average on tests unrelated to Marketo, unrelated to Webflow is 10 to 30% win rate. For real. Like if you've already tested a bunch on your site, you will find lift. Pardon me. But most ideas don't provide meaningful additional lift. Not because we have bad ideas, but because you can't predict what'll work. And if you knew it would work, you would have done it already. And so you're trying new things. Okay, so in that context, how do you drive more lift? Speed. You want to be able to test more quickly, thoughtful ideas, not spaghetti up on the wall, throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. To do that, you want it to be easy to use. And that's why we're so proud of the partnership we have together with Marketo because it makes it easy to activate. It makes it easy to have an idea on something you could do for a particular segment, bring it to life without a bunch of code visually on the spot. That then will yield lift. The actual answer, they're case study level results. You know, they're 2x, 5x, 10x. They're incredible results. And it truly is the faster you go, the more you get. One last thing, Prash, before I hand it back to you. There are more than a few, not just some extreme outlier customers who, when they look back on the last year, tried a new idea a day. Like, I know many places that are saying, hey, I got one a month. I tried a new personalization a month. Now imagine one a day, not because you have to do that, but because you had a bunch of ideas and you got to bring them to life. That will lead to more lift.
Mhm. And maybe like one more question before we wrap up. I think the question is about uh, how do we do that? I think you talked about, I think after the form fill, you can show the Calendly link, right? I think the user, one of the attendee wants to know is like, is it configured in Webflow or is it something that can tie back to Marketo also?
That particular one, we wrote some JavaScript, we wrote some code. That code then we put into Webflow to execute. It calls Calendly. And then, candidly, I don't know the end result, but it would surprise me if, when I asked the team, the end result wasn't, oh, they scheduled a demo or an appointment. That will then feed back to
Okay.
Marketo. I can't say that with certainty because I didn't ask the question, but it would surprise me if it didn't, because you'd want to know that, you know, that they filled out the form and scheduled something.
No, amazing. Yeah, I think so many stuff we can do right now. I think this was amazing session, and thank you both, Guy and Hannah. Wonderful to have you and share your wisdom and experience here. I'm sure everyone who's watching has gained something from it. And Guy, if you can go to the next slide, maybe just yes. And thank you. And also, like, if any of you want to know more about what else we can do with Marketo or what else different tools which can integrate with Marketo to increase the effectiveness or make marketing ops better and help the marketeers and either to increase the engagement, conversion, please do send us feedback at lamarg@marrinadecisions.com. And as the user group here, we will always strive to make sure that we can support every questions and how we can make the Marketo user group much more robust in terms of making use of our investment in Marketo to better serve us in our marketing activities. Awesome. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. You guys have a wonderful week. And once again, thanks, Guy and Hannah, for joining us today.
Thank you. Hannah, thanks for joining us. That was awesome. Thanks, Prash.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
me.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.